Welcome to the In the Tank podcast. Get ready for an hour of hot 40k goodness coming in your ears. You're in the tank now, baby.
We're live.
We are indeed live. Welcome to In the Tank, our first guest special with the mighty Quipster. How you doing, boys? You okay?
It's good to be here. Feel amazing.
It's great.
Thank
It's lovely to have
Thank you
Quipster
for
on
coming.
board. Yeah.
Indeed. General painting master, I would say. You'll probably be quite... Yeah, like, it always happens. Everyone's like, oh,
So
no, not
humble.
me. Like,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah.
master. Horus Heresy fan and general awesome Warhammer community personality. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Happy to be here.
Well, wicked. Thank you. So we'll start off, as always, with our first topic, and we'll lead with you, sir, if that's okay. What are you working on, Quipster? What are your hobby things that you're doing at the moment, mate?
Oh, okay. So, firstly, I'm going to say something. Whenever anyone calls me a good painter, I immediately have to humble myself. And the reason for this is because, oh no, seriously, I'm in a WhatsApp group with a bunch of guys who are like the most top tier Golden Demon level painters you've ever seen in your life. Like, there's 15, maybe 20 people in that WhatsApp group.
Yeah.
And last Golden Demon, there were 14 Golden Demons that were won in that group
Oh, jeez.
out of 20. And I'm just like, why am I here? Like, what the...
I mean, we've
Are we allowed to
seen
swear
your
on this podcast?
Instagram page.
dude.
So you're
Yeah,
not,
absolutely.
you're not
Okay,
fooling
great.
anyone.
Yeah. I'm thinking, what the fuck am I doing in here? Jesus Christ. Because you've got, like, Andy Wardle's in that group.
Oh, wow.
And I'm just like, oh no. It's like Andy Wardle and me.
But I've been telling Ed off for this, where like I don't, it doesn't matter like how good we all are as painters. Like we all have to have that like humble moment where we're like, oh no, I'm not that good. Don't look at me. And I think that's just part of it. I think that's part of being a creative and you just want to stay humble, right? But either way, just be rest assured that we love your work and thank you for coming on. But are you working on anything cool at the moment? Because obviously, you know, your Emperor's Children army looks amazing that you've been working on. You're quite into your Imperial fists as well. So,
yeah. So, firstly, thank you. And
You're welcome.
secondly, oh God, I have like, normally I'm very, very good at doing a single project at a time and being like, okay, I'm doing the squad or I'm doing like a chunk of this army. But I've been waylaid a little bit recently. So I'm really good friends with a guy called Josh. He's Omega on Edge on Instagram.
Yeah.
He's fantastic, has a lot of really amazing Alpha Legion. You should go follow him if you don't already. But I was at Josh's place the other day, and I realized I've come up against the same problem he has a little bit. We're both on the Games Workshop creator program, so they send us stuff, and it's so much stuff, and it's all amazing. And so you're just sitting there, and you're like, I wasn't planning on playing Necromunda, but I have all this stuff now, so I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's kind of forcing me to do all the stuff I wanted to do just a lot quicker than I was planning on doing it. So, like, I don't know if you guys saw my story the other day. I had all of my boxes, because I'm moving flat at the moment, all of my boxes of stuff that I have, like, stacked up. Yeah. And it's taller than my sister, for a start. It's big.
Yeah.
And it's like old world Bretonians, it's the Legion Imperialis stuff, the latest Kill Team box, the latest Hive Secundus Necromunda box, the new AOS stuff, and I'm just like, oh my god, it's all
I don't know how you
amazing.
keep up with that.
That's
too much.
You can't.
No.
See, that's the thing.
Can't.
You just physically can't. And so, like, I was telling Josh, like, yo, dude, you've got to pick your battles here. Like, if you're going to do something, you have to do it to, like, a certain level or standard that's going to mean that you can actually do things. So, like, people like me and Josh, he's becoming more of a bust, level sort of, like, competition painter. And I'm currently focusing more on, like, army stuff. And so, like, I'm having to tell him, like, yo, dude, you need to plan out what you're doing. And so that's kind of what I've had to do for my own goals.
Yeah.
Because my own goals at the moment are, I want a full Bretonian army. I want a full 3,000 point Legions Imperialis force. And I want to redo not quite redo. I want to add to my Imperial Fists so that it's basically a new force. I'm building a first company Imperial Fist force.
Oh yes, love that.
Cool.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
And so it's going to be Terminators, Blade Guard, Stern Guard, just all of that, and some Dreadnoughts.
Russ has been like doing some first company stuff lately, and he's been sending me all his lists. And he's like, "Oh, I love it." Yeah, no, you're into
100%. And so basically, the thing I always try and do is I actually very rarely buy miniatures, even before I was on this content creator program. Because what I tend to do is I'll do box sets of stuff. So for example, not the Leviathan box, the big the Indominus box.
Yeah.
When that first came out, I spent 6 months just painting that, and I didn't buy anything. Because, when I first got into the hobby, I bought literally a stack of I spent £400 on Custodes immediately.
It's like 10 models.
I literally walked into right. So I walked into Games Workshop in Tottenham Court Road. I was just like, Custodes, yes, please. And it was the stack.
Yeah.
It took me a year and a half to paint.
Wow.
it was ridiculous. And so since then I learned my lesson. Don't buy in bulk. Just don't.
No.
Your brain can't handle it.
The thing is, you say that, but I'm still probably am going to do it. I'm like, the man makes sense. And inside I'm like, no, it makes sense. But then the lust of going, oh no, I could have all of that now. Like the greed.
You kind of want the list, don't you, in the house, and then when you've got it, you put it out in front of you, and you get overwhelmed, and you're like, no, I can't paint all this. It's too much.
See, no, this is the thing. I can't do that because, generally speaking, I sub-assemble the shit out of everything.
Oh no.
So so it's
do you
not
the gun arms and everything?
Thing.
Oh god.
Depends what it is. So,
yeah.
Generally speaking, my sub-assemblies will be torso and legs and one arm.
Okay.
And then it will be gun and the other arm separate, and then head and backpack.
For every guy?
Yeah.
That's a fuck.
Basically.
I just glue them all together, and you can't see the acrylic, you can't see it.
I'm just such a perfectionist.
I know.
To be honest, though,
You've chosen the perfect legion.
Oh yeah, tell me about it. This is the thing with the so the Emperor's Children. That army almost killed me. I haven't even started talking about what I'm actually working on. I'll get to that in a second,
you carry on. I'm enjoying this.
Honestly, the Emperor's Children. So I don't know if I've talked to you guys about how I planned out that army.
I've heard of this. I have heard. You went deep, bro. You went deep.
Oh, yeah.
I was quite impressed. I was like, wow, bro.
I went
then
deep,
Excel spreadsheets and shit. You went for it, man. I was like, that man has a plan.
It's actually a Trello board, not even an Excel. It's so bad. So, for anyone out there who doesn't know what Trello is a project management software they normally use in the tech industry for planning out whatever they're doing in their company. And I was just like, that sounds perfect for Warhammer, because I'm just that kind. Oh man, I'm that kind.
That's too much. That's too much.
It's so bad. So
here's me. I just put 5 models on the table, and I'm like, that's a bit much to think about.
For me, I'm just like, right, okay. What's their motivation? What's their backstory? Who are their leaders? Where are they from?
Fucking hell.
So, I started with the Custodes doing this because all my Custodes have names, and they've all got nameplates as well.
Right, you have a lot to be. You have a lot to be because Well, the amount of money that I have since watching, because I think that was the seed of it. Sorry to interrupt you, but the seed of nameplates was your fault, buddy. And my wallet is not happy because I saw it. I was like, that's a great idea. All of my Terminators are named. It's the way forward. It's the way forward.
One of them's called Wallace.
There you go. Sorry. Well, it's called Wallace. It's so good.
Yeah.
But yes, carry on. Sorry, but you just have honestly.
100%. I couldn't agree with you more. So all my Custodes have names. And as soon as I did that, because Custodes army's 20 models. So I was like, yeah, of course I can name them all. But because I have this thing, I love going into the depth of everything.
Yeah.
I not only gave them names, but I gave them names based on names that they would have. And so the Custodes, take their names from, ancient heroes, gods, and monsters, and ancient legends from Earth's past.
Yeah.
And, they're not. I think a lot of people fall into the trap of choosing Germanic or Greco-Roman names. So everyone is Titus this and, fucking Apollo that. And I was just like, no, we're more interesting than that. And this is like, 30,000 years into the future. They would take their names from all over the world. And so, yeah, my custodies, I spent so long looking up like Mongolian gods and like deities from Ireland and Norway and
Love
like
it.
all this kind of stuff.
I love it.
So yeah, all my custodies have those kinds of names. And it actually goes a little bit further because my custodies actually earn names for things that they've done on the tabletop.
Amazing.
So like I have one custodian. This is such a wild tangent, I apologize.
No, carry on. It's fine.
We're enjoying
I've got one custodian, and this was in 9th edition. It was at a competition. He tanked shooting from an entire Grey Knight army. And at the time, it was that independent characters rule, so you couldn't shoot in a character if it was within proximity
of bodyguard,
the unit. And so the bodyguard rule, and so like that one custodian stopped my one character from being shot at all, and my character was standing in an objective, which meant I got the points, which meant I won the game. And I was just like, oh, that guy's getting another name. So I was just like, okay, so his name should be emblematic of the thing he did. So I called his next name was Opikun, which means guardian in Ukrainian.
Oh,
and
cool.
like that's the kind of thing they would have. And so yeah, as their legend grows, they get more names.
Also, just having that one person recognize that will make that all worthwhile as well, right? When they're like,
he'll just see him on the table.
You're just like, yeah.
Be like, no,
100%. And then, and then I can, right. And then I continued this with my Imperial Fists. Now, obviously, Space Marines, way bigger army, so I was just like, maybe I won't name all of them, but I named everyone from like sergeant or veteran upwards.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I've given them names from kind of all over the place. So some of them have quite serious names, and they've all got backstories as well. And some of them have quite funny, jokey names. So there's one guy called Elias Bauer, who I named after someone who was very close to me at the time. And, because that was their second name. And I've got another guy who's, and you have to see if you can see where this one's from. He's a blade guard, and his name is Keanu Wick.
Oh, okay.
Dude.
Can't figure that one out. I like it.
I love the contrast of reference here. You've gone for like quite an obscure, like, cool, and then cool.
Yeah, I see what you've done there.
It's very pop culture.
There's another one.
I like it.
Yeah, literally. And there's another one. I got a friend of mine whose name is Kareem Abu Sir. I just called one of my characters that. I just I just messaged him like, yo, dude, I put you in my army.
Sorry, you're dead.
And he's got a cool name.
She just texts him every time he dies.
Is, I'm actually going to do that. But you know the Space Marine 2 that just came out?
Yeah.
So the captain in that is actually based on one of the models, right? One of the captain models.
Yeah.
Titus?
Yeah, that's... No.
Not Titus, sorry.
So the ginger...
Oh, right,
guy,
okay, yeah,
guy.
I know the one you mean. Yeah, the
yeah,
Scottish one.
He's like actually he's a model. So like, yeah, that's Kareem Abu Sir in my army.
Oh, okay.
That's the guy.
Yeah. That's the guy.
Yeah, that's literally the guy.
I love that. So what are you working on?
Back to Emperor's Children.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we'll do what I'm working on and then we'll go back to Emperor's Children. But, okay, so this is what I'm working on. Basically, I was with a couple of guys at a Heresy tournament a while ago. And we were just chatting. And then I was talking about how, like, I got sent the Imperialis box a while ago. And I was just like, yeah, these models are actually pretty fucking great. Like, I don't know if you guys have handled any of the Imperialis.
Yeah, wild.
They're tiny.
Wild for the scale is crazy. Absolutely insane.
Right? And just they're all so stunning. I was so impressed with all of it. And I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna paint a lot of this. And chatting to those guys, one of them, my friend Callum, is Saga Miniatures on Instagram. He lives up in Newcastle, and he actually comes down to London fairly often. And we were talking about it, and he was like, yeah, it'd actually be pretty cool if I could just bring an Imperialis force with me every time I come down. We can get a game in. I was like, that's actually a great idea. Let's do it. And so there's like 3 or 4 of us now. And we were like, yeah, let's just go hard into Imperialis. And so, yeah, I cracked out the box, bought a whole bunch of stuff. Could not believe it. I put it on my story the other day. I randomly walked into a hobby shop I've not been into for years. I was taking a look around, and loads of the Imperialis stuff was on sale. And like,
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And with like big discounts. Like I got, the Nemesis Warbringer Titan. So the one with the big thing on its back.
Oh, yeah.
The cathedral on its back. Or
Yeah, I got, yeah. I got one of those for 40 quid.
Wowzers.
Wow,
Those things
okay.
are insane. Like, ginormous. For the scale,
Crazy.
like, huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like, oh, this is a sign. Like I'm doing a bunch of this.
Is that how you justify that? Like, the hobby
just
buying
come out
is
with an
like,
empty wallet.
it's destined from the stars. It's like, come on.
100%. It's actually the first time I bought miniatures in quite a while, because
Fuck.
I've been, because like I've got so much in the backlog. I thought I was going to do my old world stuff, my my Bretonians, because that's an army I've been dreaming about doing since I was like 11. So I thought I'd do them before the Imperialis stuff, but I was just like, well, my friends are doing this, and they're actually very quick to paint, so screw it. And my Imperialis stuff is going to be miniaturized versions of my Heresy stuff.
Oh, there you go. There
Yes,
you go.
because I can.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so there's that, and also on top of that, I'm building this this first company force. So I've got I'm just slowly sort of like chipping away through the Indomitus box. Not the Indomitus box, the other one, the new one.
The
Came with the launch of 10th. Is that
Leviathan.
Yeah, Leviathan.
Leviathan box?
Yeah.
So I ended up with 2 Space Marine halves of that, and
nice.
I've just been slowly chipping away. And so yeah, I just finished off the Stone Guard. 6 of the Stone Guard. And yeah, that's part of the plan. I'm currently holding off on painting any more Custodes. I don't know anything. I'm hoping against all hope that the Custodes range gets a bit of a redesign, because
You mean the resin
I kind
ones?
of need it.
Yeah.
No, the plastics.
Oh, do you not like them?
Wow, interesting.
That's interesting.
Ooh.
Hot take there. Go on.
Yeah.
Explain
What's your
that
beef?
one.
What's
Chris.
your beef?
Yeah.
So this is where we might get a bit controversial, guys. And,
No, we
and also,
don't.
I'm wearing my Custodes t-shirt.
Yeah,
See,
that's true.
on brand. Gotta be on brand.
Yeah.
So Custodes have always been, my faction. Like, as soon as I found out Custodes were a faction in 40k, bang, straight into Warhammer again. That was the army that got me back into the game in 2019.
Amazing.
But they came out in 2017, and they already look a little tired. If you compare the Custodes models to any of the new Space Marine stuff, even, it's beginning to show its age a little bit. The poses are very static. The way they go together actually is not super great. Like, the options you get in the box are okay, and it's not a very big range. I think it's especially evident if you look at the Custodian Wardens.
Mm-hmm.
That is a kit that is okay at best.
Yeah.
And
they all look the same.
It pains me to say. Yeah, exactly. If you have a Custodes force and you put it on the ground, everything looks the same. It's hard to tell anything apart. And you don't have a lot of options.
They don't have a huge amount of variety. I do agree with you. Like, there are some of their Forge World stuff that looks a bit different, obviously with like Venetari and stuff like that, but a lot of their foot soldiers. Exactly. I'm always asking my Custodes opponents, like, which ones are those? And he's like, oh, the ones in the dresses are like the Wardens, and I'm like, okay, cool. I know where you're coming from with that. I'd be intrigued to see whether they do get a range refresh at some point. I mean, they will eventually, right? But how soon that's going to be is another thing entirely.
Hopefully soon is my thinking. And until then, until then, I've got loads of other stuff to work on.
I I mean, bless you. I think that's quite a Custodes perspective, in as much I think there's some kits that are desperately needing to be renovated, and you're like, no, let me have my Custodes, please. I want my beautiful golden boys. And you've got Catachans from like the 90s still on the web store with like melted faces, and you're like, no, make my golden perfect boys be even more perfect. And I'm a bit like, I agree with you, bro. Like, come on.
I think you'll find that the Custodes are the most important in the room. In any room they walk into.
See, wow, I'm just getting my profile of you sorted now.
You started on such a high. You were like nameplates, first company, and now you're like,
and I'm like, okay.
But there's also another very, very good kind of reason for this as well. Female Custodes exist now, and they don't in the model range.
They do,
true.
That's
very true. Yeah, well said. Well said.
Yeah, that's the thing. And like, it's actually, we might go on a bit of a controversial tangent, but
no, funny enough, we've talked about this previously, so you go for it, because it'd be interesting to know your perspective.
So from my perspective, I always found it fascinating. Like this whole like rigmarole when it was announced. Firstly, I had a lot of people in my DMs, because I'm the Custodes guy. A lot of people in my DMs who were just like, "Oh, don't you think this breaks the law?" I'm like, "Do you not read the law? Like, if you go back far enough, say first edition, Space Marine or whatever.
Yeah,
Horus was a normal human. The final confrontation happens on Earth, like in the command bunker. Like, the Primarchs don't exist in the way they do. The Space Marines aren't transhuman. They're just like pirates in armor. Like, it's all completely different.
Yeah.
And so like, and also on top of that, this is exactly how Games Workshop introduces changes to the law. They just say it was there the whole time. We just didn't have a model for it.
Yeah.
Best example for that is the Kratos battle tank. Like, that came out in second edition of Heresy. No one bat an eyelid, because the Kratos is objectively fucking awesome. It's the best. It's my favorite tank. It's amazing. It is a fantastic kit. It looks stunning. It's amazing. I'm going to have 3 of them. And all they said was, it's actually been there the whole time. We just didn't mention it. Then they say, okay, Custodes. Like, there have been female Custodes the whole time. We just didn't mention it.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's literally how they've always done this.
Yeah.
And so all these people who are just like, oh, they're ruining the law. I mean, they're just not.
I think that they just inflamed people a little bit with the way they reacted on their community post. I think that they sort of, that's what triggered a lot of people. I think it was just that they tried to brush it under the. They were just like, it's always been there, guys. Like, just.
But then I do think there's like this rising cultural. Not to get too political, and like, do forgive me if so, but there seems to be like this rising sort of divide in the hobby between like people that actually aren't necessarily that connected to the hobby per se, having massive opinions about it and like getting quite like arsey about, as you say, like law changes that everything's been a retcon, as you say. Like, like the fact that Primarchs were never really a part of it. Also, Custodes were like topless dudes in like some like Blanchy era artwork, right? They're like fabulous, like Adonis-y, like six-packy like guys with no armor at all, just like looking lush. You know what I mean? And it's like, exactly, well-oiled. Like, and it's like, everything's a retcon anyway. And like, people that are really getting het up on this, I don't think really understand like the setting particularly well, or like the culture surrounding like GW's history. And like, it's quite divisive, and it just, and I don't understand. I don't get it. I just really don't understand.
I mean, the one thing I will say for these people who, like to complain about this stuff, I think the hobby has seen a massive expansion in the last 5 years. And a lot of this will be mainly guys who have come back into the hobby, who played it as kids. They're now watching the YouTube videos. They're maybe reading a book or two. They've got their codex. They've got their army, but they're very invested. Now, the problem with that is we look back at our childhoods with rose-tinted glasses. And if you have opinions now that you're very invested in, it can seem like it has everything that you're invested in has always been the same.
Yeah. That's true.
And that's kind of not the case. And I think a lot of guys who get back into the hobby don't necessarily know a lot of the context for changes that have been made since to make the setting kind of make more internal sense.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I don't think there are that many people who have come back into the hobby who know that Rogel Dawn actually was dead. Like, in a lot of more previous lore. He was just dead. It wasn't just his hand, it was his skeleton that was there. They have retconned that, so it's just his hand and he's missing. And they've done that for very obvious reasons. Those kinds of changes that people aren't necessarily aware of kind of make them think, oh, they've made this massive change to the lore. How dare they do this? Because I don't think they may quite realize how much has changed over time. And so, yeah, I always prefer to like have conversations with people who like are so, rigid on the lore like this, because I like to think I know a few things about the lore. At this point I've read 180 Warhammer novels, and the entire Horus Heresy I'm on my third read through. So
wow, that's quite impressive actually to do it on the third time. Like, bless you.
Yeah,
pretty good.
It's totally by accident.
Hey, we all need painting Audible. Like, everyone's Audible list is just like crammed full of stuff. Like, it's all cool.
God.
It's all cool.
Yeah, but yeah, this is where I think a lot of this controversy comes about. People are just so invested, but they don't quite realize that this is how things have kind of always been done. And for the most part, it's actually been to the betterment of the hobby and the lore and the narrative universe in general. So, like, I with the Custodians specifically, I like to look at the positives of this. A lot of people think the Custodians are just bigger, tougher Space Marines, and that's so far from the truth of them. And so to have male and female Custodians, I think is a great thing, because it really differentiates them against the Space Marines.
Yeah.
And the way that they've done it, have you seen the animation with that female female
very
Custodian?
Brienne of Tarth.
Oh, that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
It was very cool.
That was so cool. They got that so on point, because she's such an asshole to those Space Marines, as every Custodian would be. And like they got the everything about that perfect. And so yeah, I'd love to see that replicated in the model range.
Just the radiation of like custodiesness is just like overpowered. It's like, wow, dude.
Oh yeah, it's that smug like we're better than you, do what we say.
Oh, see, as a First Legion boy, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm. I just
this is quite fun to witness.
Yeah, you're just like, Angela, like, I'm going like
it's
red.
like,
I'm just like, yeah,
I'm just
cool.
a filthy Xenos, don't mind me. My Emperor's got 4 arms.
Dark Angels think they're daddy's boys. Custodians are daddy's boys.
Hey, we'll always be.
Actually, it's so funny saying this. My cousin is a really big Dark Angels guy.
Yeah.
And so, kind of going back to painting a little bit, one of the reasons I got so into painting is because I've done it a lot for other people.
Yeah.
I am one of the biggest hobby enablers that, I could possibly be. One of my friends who I went to school with, he was kind of on the fence about getting back into Warhammer. And I was just like, you know what, dude? Why don't I just repaint your entire Eldar army that you had as a kid? He was like, what? It's like, would you play games against me if we did that? And he was like, yeah.
Yeah.
So I painted 4,000 points of Eldar over the course of a year.
Dude.
Right, Quipster, I'm thinking about getting back into Warhammer as well, actually.
Dude, I mean, that's quite a gift. That's quite a gift to do that for someone.
Me.
Like, that's
someone did that for me, I'd be like,
yeah.
What? Yeah. That's
You know what the worst part was? The worst part was every time we played, he complained endlessly that Custodians were like a bullshit army, with all these crazy special rules. He won every single time and complained about it.
That's a typical Eldar player.
Typical Eldar player.
Yeah, typical Eldar.
I love how we're forming these stereotypes as well.
Yeah, we really are.
It's kind of true. It's kind of true. Let's be real. Anyway, we have got topics, Quipster.
Which I have derailed immediately.
Just steamroll, yeah.
I'm enjoying
I haven't even
it.
talked about, like... I don't even seriously. I haven't even talked about what I'm doing with this. I don't know if you guys can see that.
What is that?
So, for my Imperialist stuff, I'm replicating the bases I'm using for my Horus Heresy force.
Yeah.
And so, I've got cork to made look like marble, and then for my characters, I've got them on like plastic card, like steps, which is going to be marble as well. So, yeah,
that sounds
that's a thing too.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't know how you have time for all
I have noticed
this.
your mum, dude. Well,
You've noticed his mum.
Just how do I have time for this? That's a good question. Don't be married, don't have kids. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's it.
This is it, Ed. This is it. You hit the nail on the head, really. This is it. Like, we're both in the same position. Oh, no. It's so cool. I love
we both got a 2-year-old and we're both
It's
married. Happily, I might add.
Oh, God.
We're at literally the same point. We're literally at the same point. I think that's why we bonded so quickly. We were just like, let's grab onto each other. Let's do this.
Help.
Oh, God. Yeah, no, I get you. I think... Yeah, with me, like, painting's just kind of a habit. I do it, like, just before I go to bed for a couple of hours. And it's just, like,
great
I get cravings to do it.
Yeah.
It's the best. It's the 100%. Best. It's
Yeah.
like, for me, guitar, obviously I teach guitar, playing guitar and Warhammer are just the two things that, like, keep me actually able to function as a human being, I think, with the stresses of everyday life. You just gotta have it down.
Yeah.
Talking about guitar, I have both my guitars right behind me over there.
Yeah, dude. I've got a rack and several stuff behind me there. Like
an armory of guitars. I love it.
Yeah.
Mate,
I don't have a guitar behind me.
It's
in the
my
attic.
OG obsession. You've got a keyboard, so there you go.
I've got a keyboard behind me.
There you go.
Yeah. It's an instrument.
Keyboards are way harder.
Yeah.
Oh no! Don't say that. No, this is where I put my professional on the table and go, nah, don't.
Well, to be fair, I'm biased. I think keyboards are harder because I only ever played guitar to look cool, and so like I only ever like learn. I have no musical ability whatsoever. I only learned the beginning of songs I like, so I can play. I can play like the beginning of the Halo theme tune, or like the beginning of some Metallica songs, or like some like Red Hot Chilies and stuff like that. But like I don't know anything in the middle or the end. Just the beginning.
Amazing.
Because that's the fun bit.
Yeah.
I'm just like sitting on my misspent degree. Just like, yes, no, absolutely.
You want to talk about misspent degrees? My undergrad was in politics and international relations. My master's was in global political economy. And now I work in the skincare industry.
Amazing.
Oh, well. I mean, dude, it's all good. Like, you have no idea. You're young. You're young. You have no idea. Like, in the future,
I'm 35.
Bro. Still
Fuck,
young
you're the same age as us.
Oh my god, we're all the same age. Oh. Wow.
I just get Botox so I look
your
younger.
skin looks great, though.
I own a skincare range. Of course, it looks good.
Okay, now I'm gonna have to be master of topics here and get this back on bloody track. Like seriously, my god.
So Emperor children.
No, look. We do actually have an itinerary of topics, and this could be related, in all fairness, to your topic. God damn, fuck me. Right. Happy hobby places, people. Dude, fucking hell.
I love doing this.
Oh,
it's very
dude.
fun.
See, like, I can feel it now. I can feel it at the beginning. I was like, yeah, they're cool. Anyway, so happy hobby places, people. What is everybody's happy hobby places? It can be from a hobby perspective or a gaming perspective or whatever. Like, where are we at, boys?
Yeah, I'll go first. Mine's just listening to Quipster
derail
you and just say controversial things and shit on your Space Marines. I think that's my hobby place now. I can just do this every night.
My symbol is crying.
No, Oh dear! No, I do have to say, like, I think for like I will step in first because you know I haven't said much yet. That's not like me, but we're obviously painting is a big one for me. Like I think, as you said, Quipster, I think it's such a great thing to be able to just do in the evening. Like you sit down for a couple of hours if you've got time. You know, if your kid's not hanging off you, to get a little bit done. It's such a nice like chill out. I always like put an audiobook on or something like that, or like a great podcast like the one you're listening to. And I think that's a really nice way to spend, you know, a couple of hours of an evening. But the other thing, and I think that this is my personal happy space, is just playing a game of Beer Hammer with your mates. I think that for me is the peak. Like, get my mate over, like you, Russ, or my mate Paul, or whoever. Like, just come over, crack a beer, have a fucking great game of 40k, and have a good laugh. That for me is like peak. But I don't know about you guys.
I think it boils. No, I think that boils it down to the nostalgia of what this was all about for a lot of us, right? Where it's just those micro narratives with friends where like things happen that you don't expect and just you talk about them for weeks or potentially years afterwards and just reference stuff that happens and just I think that's it, man.
It's like your little marine, your custodies that stood on the point and saved your character. It's that sort of stuff that sticks in your mind, and you just have these really awesome stories. And it is a great game for stories. It really is.
100%. Couldn't agree more. Russ, you should go next because I'm going to take a while.
Yeah, get it in quick, Russ.
To be honest, it's potentially.
Also, time's up.
This is great. it's like we did the death clock. Do you know what I mean? This is like,
we have to clock him. Shall I get the clock out? The chess clock.
Richard Russo.
Let's go. So yeah, on a similar theme to you, to be fair, like I'm of a very similar person. Granted, not to the extent of having multiple spreadsheets of concept. But I can relate to the core of an idea. And I love seeing something through and just going, right, once upon a time, that was an inception of a concept, right, where it would just spark, whatever it was. Like at the moment, I'm kind of being swayed by the ruinous powers and potentially starting like a word bearers warband. And just the beginnings of that and feeling that again. I know, shut up, Ed. And just feeling that excitement. That excitement of starting that project and knowing potentially in the future what that's going to look like in like 9 months, a year and a half. And that sort of primal satisfaction at looking at that and seeing that where I just go, wow, like that was once an idea, like a concept. And now it's an army that I'm playing with friends or I'm playing at a tournament or whatever. That's great. And for me, as a first company enjoyer and a Deathwing fanboy, Terminators for days. Give me Terminators. Just line up those fucking Terminators. Give me those Terminators. Currently painting some Terminators at the moment, painting some Assault Terminators for first company force. And it'll be hopefully running like 40 or 50 Terminators in that list. Like,
animal.
Nice.
Gross. Just gross. So yeah, building big old chonky boys is my happy place, to be fair. Go on then, lads, do it. I can see you ready to go.
Get it out. He's bursting.
Just go.
So, firstly, I got to agree. Like the new Terminator models are stunning.
Well, we have the best. We do have the best Terminators as well because the Deathwing Knights are absolutely divine in every way, shape, and form. So
yeah,
there we go.
Like
they are.
My cousin's just about to have another child, so I don't think he's going to have time to listen to any Warhammer podcasts. But he just moved to America, and I say just, it was 3 years ago. And he couldn't bring any of his Dark Angels with him. So as a surprise for him, when his kid is born, all the spare characters I've got, and I'm going to buy the Lion as well, I'm going to paint those as Dark Angels and then ship it all out to him. And be like, congrats on your child. Lad. Here's some Space Marines.
You are a top man. Like, look at you. You're such a gentleman. What a gentleman thing to do.
That's amazing.
No, it's me being selfish because like it means he's got an army that I can play with him when I get there.
Amazing.
But so that's a bit of a tangent. What's about hobby happy places? Honestly, I'm a massive extrovert, and so every time I go to an event and I get to meet people,
that's cute.
That's that's always really special because, like, as well, I've featured in a lot of friends' content before. Like, I've got my Instagram as well, so every time I go to an event, I get recognized, and I get to have conversations with people about their stuff, and like, it's always just so fun, and it's so nice, and like, this is a really nice thing. It sounds like such a dickhead. Like,
we're 100% behind you, mate. You carry on. No,
we get recognised all the time.
We'll expand on this because,
yeah. I mean, Ed, I assume you actually would.
No, I've been once or twice. Yeah, it's a weird thing, but yeah, no, it's cool.
I love it. I genuinely do love it because, like, a really good example of this. This is a bit embarrassing. I was coming back from a walk last year, and it was a really hot day, so I was topless. I was walking back to my flat, and I had my earphones in, and I just kind of see a guy waving at me, like he was just trying to get in my eye line and wave. I'm just like, okay, right, because I don't live in a super great area right now. I was like, okay, this looks like a fight that's about to happen, right? Okay, let's go. But he was wearing a suit. I was like, oh, okay, maybe it's not a fight. I took my earphones off, and he was like, hey, are you Quipster? And I was just like, oh, it's a Warhammer thing. Thank God. Thank God for that. I thought I was about to get stabbed.
Because you were cosplaying as a custodian, like OG. Topless.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, exactly. Topless, rocking it.
And so, yeah, I got chatting to this guy. His name's Ewan, and he's now a really good friend of mine. Like, amazing. We play Heresy all the time together. And like those kinds of connections and meeting like cool new people in the hobby, like I love all that shit. Although I will say one thing that has happened a couple of times that's like kind of weird to be on the other side of is sometimes people will like play it really cool and they'll be like, oh, like this happened at a heresy competition I was at recently. This guy came up to me and he was just like, oh, hey, lovely to meet you. And we were talking about, it was standing next to my army because it was armies on parade. And he's like, oh, I love what you've done here, blah, blah, blah. And then, like, he said something that I hadn't mentioned in the conversation at all. And it took me a second. And I was just like, how could this guy possibly know? Oh, he follows me on Instagram. Yeah. Right, okay. He should have opened with that.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it's just like,
yeah,
how do you know?
A bit weird. It's like when,
that's
like, a bit weird.
Yeah. It's like in spy films when someone, like, threatens you and they're just like, so, how are the wife and kids? Elaine and Margaret. And you're just like, how do you know that? Oh, you follow me on Instagram. Okay, it's cool.
It's
you're my
such a sweet place, though. I mean, it's going for such a sweet place, but you can't happen to be like, oh no, that's not cool. Actually, that's actually not cool.
It was totally innocent, but it was funny because I was just like, oh right, he's like just playing it cool.
Yeah. The one that's baffled me a couple of times with this is when people come up to you. And you'd probably recognize their name in like a chat if you're on a live stream or something like that. But they come up to you and they act like they know you and you should know them. But I've never seen their face before. I don't know that they're called John or whatever. Because how the fuck would I? I'd need you to say, oh, I'm like, Noob Slayer 666 in the chat. And I'll be like, okay, I know who you are now. But like, it's always like half a conversation. You're trying to kind of work it out. It's such a nightmare.
100%. That's happened so many times to me.
Yeah.
Like, I've been chatting to someone in my DMs for like 6 months, and they'll come up to me at an event and be like, hey, what's up, blah, blah, blah. Like, give me a hug, and I'm just like, who the fuck is this? Because no one puts their real name or their face in their Instagram ever. And so, like, this is why I keep saying to people, there's two reasons for this. Put your face in your hobby Instagram, for the love of God, so people know who you are at events. And also, from a, like, boring security perspective, this happened to a friend of mine recently. Hackers locked him out of his account. And what happens is, to get your account back, they do facial recognition for pictures of you in your Instagram profile. Ooh. So if there aren't enough or any pictures of you in your Instagram, you can't get back in.
Oh, that's a really good tip, actually.
Yeah, that is a good tip. Yeah.
So put your pictures of your face on your Instagram.
You see, like, you were talking about your
just look embarrassing, hobby. Just be like,
exactly.
Literally.
So talking about your like happy place, right? I remember when I first met you at LGT, and this story, this story has to come up. like, because I was like, hey, look, it's Quipster. And like, you came over with a bunch of guys and you were all sort of chatting. I was like, hey, dude, how are you? And you were like, yeah, good. And we were just talking and you were like, do you want a chip? And I was like, yeah, sure. And I took one and I ate it. And I was just like, and you were like, they've got sugar on them. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Sugary? Did you accidentally put sugar on them? I've never got the answer for this.
Yes,
and
I
then,
did.
Yes, I thought instead of salt.
This happened to me twice in my life. So like,
I just assumed that was the case. You were just fobbing people off with sugar.
I make no
chips.
apologies. That was really funny.
It was good. He probably trolled me.
Oh god, but yeah,
that was hilarious.
I don't apologize at all because it was funny, but
No,
yeah,
it was
I did
great.
fuck my own day that day because I was just like, yeah, this is.
I loved
salt.
it. It made me chuckle because I was just like, it's been absolutely done here.
That's such a hobbyist thing to do, though, isn't it? Like we're so good at focusing. No, sugar on chips. Why not? Why not?
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah. It's just me being an absent-minded fool. But yeah, my hobby happy place is absolutely meeting like other cool people.
Yeah,
love that. That's I actually love that.
It's great to have you here.
No, I love that because I mean we wouldn't even be doing this podcast had we not met an event and just it just spirals out into such an incredible thing, and it just makes you realize like your tribe exists and it's out there.
Oh,
here we go. Yeah. Here we go.
There's another one I just thought of as well.
Go on.
Yeah. So there's this other one I just thought of as well because this happened to me 3 times, and each time it's been such a special moment where I've introduced someone to the hobby and watched them as something has snapped in their brain, and they've gone, "Holy shit, this is amazing!"
Yeah.
It happened. Actually, it happened with a girlfriend of mine at the time, and we were on our second date was me teaching her how to paint. And I thought, oh, this would be a fun, cute thing, and I watched her like literally the moment of her going, "This is amazing. I'm going to do this a lot." And I was just like, "Yes!" And watching that experience was amazing.
Banging.
And then, yeah. And then on a massive like other end of the spectrum, one of my uncles lives in China. So for anyone who doesn't know, I'm half Indian, half Sri Lankan, and my Indian side, my mum's brother lives in China and has a Chinese wife. And so I've got a cousin who's at this point, I think he's like 8, and he lives in China with his dad and his mum. And they came to visit last year over the summer. And I took my cousin, my uncle, to Bad Moon Cafe in London. I was just like, oh, let's do a fun little thing together. I'll teach him how to paint. And my uncle was like, oh, sounds great. Like, because it's a hobby that doesn't involve like an Xbox or a screen or something. So he was just like, yeah, this sounds amazing. And I took my cousin, Rohan, and I showed him some little basics, and I just gave him a Space Marine, a couple of paints and a brush, and just let him get on with it.
Nice.
And he sat for 6 hours straight, dead silent, just painting little Space Marines. Wow. And my uncle's watching this like, I've never seen him do this in my life. And I was just like,
the Matrix.
You've
hacked the Matrix of young people. It's like, yeah, go it.
He's 8.
8.
Oh, nice.
He's 8. He's a tiny 8-year-old.
You wait.
And I think that's it. He's just in.
Yeah.
And so, that was a really special moment. And then the last one was, so actually, I never mentioned this in podcasts or anything, but I was actually on the fencing team when I was at uni. And the joke is I mention it literally every circumstance of
James Bond? Are you
I used to do
actually
fencing,
James
Russ.
fucking Bond? Well, that doesn't surprise me.
It's a great sport. It's great.
No, fair.
Well, I've got the tuxedo packed in the bags.
Yeah.
It's a farmer's son. I just had a 12 ball when I was like 15. It's fine.
That's more worrying than a sword.
Well, I've only got my CCF marksman's badge as well, so...
Oh, you're in the CCF as well? Oh, Chris and I, we go way back.
I knew it! I knew he was James Bond.
Did you go to boarding school as well, Quipster?
I may have done for a while.
Which one?
See, there you go.
Yeah. It was called Felsted. It's in Essex.
Okay.
I don't know if you know
I was at Oakham. It's in Rutland.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah. We're obviously,
CCF,
boarding school, fencing.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I feel slightly out of my depth. I'm just like, what's going on here?
I'll tell you what, the funny thing was, I actually started fencing because I talk about this a lot in other podcasts as well. I actually have a chronic illness. It's called ulcerative colitis. Quick explanation is where your large intestine isn't recognized as part of your body, so your immune system attacks it. Had a really bad attack of it when I was about 13 or 14. Had to have my large intestine removed. Had a bit of a rewiring job. Now I've got a very thin waist. I get it I have slim hips. I get it from my mum's side as well. But so basically, I had to repeat a lot of school. And so I dropped out of boarding school and I went to a state school for sixth form. And actually, that's where I took up fencing, amusingly.
Oh, okay.
Not while I was in
Not the boarding school. Bizarre.
So, yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted you. What was the story about the
there.
fencing? You were telling us about it.
Yes. Suddenly getting me back on track.
Yeah, it's got real random again.
Yeah, so one thing, like, you might know this, one thing that's always really surprising is that fencers are hilariously nerdy. Like, they're the biggest Star Wars, Star Trek, whatever nerds you'd ever met.
Yeah.
And so now as a, 35-year-old adult, chatting to some of my old fencing friends, a lot of them actually play Warhammer now. And so for my friend Raph, his stag, part of the stag is we went and we played a Warhammer game. And there were a couple of guys on the stag who were fencers, but they'd never played Warhammer. And this one guy, Mike, I hadn't seen him actually since uni. And Mike was like, "Oh, I'm really enjoying this. Like, this is a really great game. And like, the miniatures are really interesting. Obviously, I don't have time for this, but this is really interesting."
You didn't paint him a fucking army as well, did you?
Well, so basically, like, he said that, and I looked at Raph, and me and Raph looked at each other, and we were just like, "Oh, Mike is in." And so we kind of like, we were texting him, and Mike was apparently asking Raph loads of questions. Like, obviously, I'm not going to start an Eldar army or anything, but like, if you were to start, hypothetically, where would you start? What's a good color scheme? Maybe how would you paint that? Obviously, I'm never going to do this. Fucking lying to himself. And so eventually, we facilitated a day where we were all in Brighton. And there's a place there called Dice Saloon. We got a table and we were all painting together. And Mike was just like, "Yeah, this is amazing. I think I'm going to do more of this." And so watching Mike's descent into the Warhammer hobby,
it's amazing, isn't it?
And like helping facilitate that has been and is amazing. And so watching people and helping people get into the hobby is something I really love. And like, sort of going back to Trello a little bit, I have Trello boards set up specifically just so when people ask me, "How do you paint this? How do you do that?" I can just send them the link to something that I'm constantly updating to help them. Because like, people ask me this all the time. And like, another question I get asked all the time, where do I start with the Horus Heresy? Which book should I read? I have separate playlists I've made on a website called kit.co. One is a playlist of, here are the books to read in the order in which you should read them to catch up on 40k. And another one, which is, here are the books you should read and the order in which you should read them for the Horus Heresy. And it skips all the shit ones and includes all the Primarch novels at locations in the Heresy.
Can you send me that,
should
please?
Read those
Because I'm going to have
novels.
to do a listening.
I will send you those.
Please do.
Yeah.
I need to do it again.
Because I will send you. Because like, basically where I set up the Primarch novels is as an introduction to the Primarch. So
Great idea.
there are certain novels where you meet Primarchs in the Heresy timeline for the first time, but I think it's good to read their Primarch novel just before that, so you get more of an inkling about their character. And so that's where I put those.
And the internalization, right, of like, because some of them are obviously from first person perspective, or very close to them. You kind of get a real insight into their character. Really, that's cool.
Precisely.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's nice. Yeah, speaking of the Heresy, I'm going to do a wet blend into our final topic of the evening. Because I just found there was a little like bit there. I was like, "I'll take it. I'll take it."
Silence.
There we go. No, it was just the topic. Actually, the topic was a perfect.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, I imagine, sir, you have quite a lot to say on this subject because it's a Horus Heresy based question. I obviously knew you were coming on, so I wanted to ask this. What are strictly two?
Fucking hell, we're going to be all night.
Your favourite of your favourite Horus Heresy moments from the lore. We have them ready to go. Who would like to go first?
Okay.
I feel like...
Don't do me.
I feel like, Russ, you should go first this time.
100%.
Cool. Okay, great. So, I thought that this was a masterful end to Fulgrim, and it's Kinska's final opera performance from Fulgrim. Because being a musician and being around musical circles a lot of my life and stuff, like, and the tension of like what was going on throughout Fulgrim, it just felt like this like boilerplate of just emotion and tension and everything that was going on in that book. And it was just the perfect personification of like the excess of Slaanesh and just how everything goes wrong. Like, for anyone who doesn't know, obviously there's this performance which is like, I don't know whether it's celebrating like Fulgrim's recent like campaign victories or whatever, but Kinska, who was like part of the Remembrancer / cultural part of Fulgrim's ship, came up with this beautiful symphony as like a final performance in front of all of the Emperor's children and everyone gathered. And it just proceeded to turn into absolute madness, and there were demonettes being summoned, and Emperor's children doing some really crazy shit and delving into true depravity. And it was just such an awesome end to that novel. Like, I remember just reading it for the first time and just being like, wow, like I kind of need to like sit down after this. It was just such a hectic kind of finale. As an Emperor's Children fan, did you get that from that as well?
I have controversial opinions about that book.
Bring it on! Bring it on!
I kind of hated that book.
Not enough
which is weird as an Emperor's Children player. I mean, for a start, 100%. But like, there are so many structural things about the heresy that really, I don't want to say bother me, but like, I think they could have been done a lot better. Number one, the Iron Hands, their only big cameo as a legion happens in someone else's book, and it's Fulgrim's.
Yeah, true.
Like,
that's true.
They don't get anything else about them unless it's Shattered Legion stuff. And it's just true. What? So that's a massive shame and a missed opportunity, because it's the only time you really get to have any kind of dialogue with Ferrus Manus, which is a shame because he's awesome. And also on top of that, I think it's Graham McNeil, right?
Yeah.
I think Graham McNeil is very good at the big battle kind of stuff. I really like the way he did the battles, especially at the beginning, for when they're going into the lair and layout and stuff. That's all really cool, but it is such a long book. It is so long, and it takes a long time to get to its point. And I understand the setup and everything, etc. But the thing that kind of like gets me a little bit, especially about the early heresy, is that it all happens at such a fast pace. It's like, quick. Bang, that person fell. Bang, the next one fell. Bang, the next one fell. Like, Fulgrim falls from, I am the most Emperor fanboy, like, golden child ever, to I'm a degenerate scumbag in, like, not that many pages and not that long. And Fulgrim, Loyalist Fulgrim, is one of my favorite characters ever. I love him. Palatine Phoenix is one of my favorite books. Not just of the heresy, just kind of ever. And so to see him just turn into this degenerate scumbag, like, immediately, down at the drop of a hat, I'm just like, I would have preferred to see a lot of this early stuff happen over a bit of a longer timescale. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, though, right, like, it was weird with the Horus Heresy series, because I don't think, as Arbiter Ian mentioned this briefly, where I don't think the breadth of the Horus Heresy was expected to be as long as it was. Like, I think it was like, let's kind of see how this kind of goes, right? And like, I get what you're saying. Yeah. The pacing's really weird because a lot of intense stuff happens within the first 5 books of that series, right? Like, and so much happens. And then the other 55 kind of like, it's kind of like a pattering of concept, like here, there, and everywhere. And the pacing's just really out of whack. But then I guess it's them Golder in them hills thing of like, well, fuck, these sold great. Let's like go for it. And I guess when you've got that many authors as well involved in such a vast project, right, where you're kind of trying to have some sort of semblance of plot running through everything, you know, I imagine it's a monumental ask.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think one thing that happens that's quite jarring if you read it for the first time is you have those like first 5 books, of which Fulgrim is I think number 5.
Yeah.
And then you're straight into Descent of Angels, which like the pace is going like through the ceiling and then just drops immediately. And you're just like, oh, now we're pre-heresy.
Controversial opinion, and this may not, and everyone rags on Descent of Angels. I love Descent of Angels. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Love that book. Absolutely adore that book. And granted, the pacing is completely whack. The pace is completely crazy. But just, I love spending time on Caliban. I just love it. I love spending a little bit of time there. And
Weird
like
that.
anything's cool. Yeah, I mean, go figure. Go figure.
To be fair, I do understand what you mean. The first time I read The Heresy, I was just like, this is shit. Having read it a second time with a better understanding of the Dark Angels and kind of where the Heresy's going, I liked it a lot better on a second reading. But I think there's a lot... The thing that really annoys me about that book isn't the way it's structured or written. It's the way it fits into the timeline. Yeah. Because they have to do a lot of like weird, like almost like double think things to make a lot of it fit together. So for example, like Typhon and Luther are supposed to be like best mates. They're supposed to have like a really good relationship. How? Luther gets sent away after his first mission. Like that's it doesn't line up very well, and I think they should have known that.
Little
bit. Like, it's such a weird
I think that is explored a little bit.
I know it's explained a bit later because
in the Luther, in like the Luther book, right? They kind of talk.
They probably realised, and they were
the
like, "Oh
weird
shit, we probably
relationship.
put something in."
Yeah, and this happens quite a lot. You see, sometimes it's really obvious. The writers will go back and they'll be like, "Oh crap, well, I've got to explain that thing that he did in that novel." Actually, I will say one of the best examples of that is there's a bit. This is a bit of a spoiler for the Siege of Terror. I don't know if you guys are there yet.
No, I'm
it's fine.
I'm sorry, Ed.
No, I'm fine. You crack on.
So I will talk about this in general terms. Basically, or do you want me to say?
No, I'm joking. I'm joking. No, you carry on. Go on.
Okay.
No, you
basically,
go fire away.
Vulcan's on. Okay, so Vulcan is on Terra, and when Vulcan lands on Terra, and this is way before the siege starts, Rogel Dawn, knows he's there, has a conversation with him, like, and he's just like, "Oh my god, your brother, you're here," and they have this big meeting, and it's fantastic. However, Vulcan's presence on Terra is kind of a bit of a secret, and so there's a bit where Rogel Dawn in one of the Siege of Terra books says, "We're the only 3 Primarchs on Terra," and he's talking to Jagatai Khan and Sanguinius, but that's just an oversight because Vulcan's there as well. And so, like, what happens in the next novel is that Dawn is sitting there in this meeting with Valdor, Sanguinius, Malcador, and the Khan, and he's kind of sitting there sweating, and he's just like, "I can't believe, like, me lying to Sanguinius actually worked. I can't believe like I was able to like lie and get away with it." And it's just them retconning that he doesn't mention that that Vulcan's there. I was just like, I see what you did there. That's really funny. But like,
sneaky.
Stop fucking up like that. It's very sneaky.
Yeah.
It's just the thought of Dawn sitting there just like, I can't believe I got away with that.
That's very tongue-in-cheek, actually.
It's actually the author saying that.
It's like actually happening in real time. Like, there we go. I guess you just own it though, right? Like if you just own it from a creative perspective, and you're like, "Nah, I'm gonna try and like just get that in there."
I will say, I love Dan Abnett. I think he's a masterful writer. But the one thing he does, I think, a little bit too much is literally when he turns and winks to camera with what he's saying.
Oh,
and I'm just like,
bro, that's half the fun. That's half the fun of a dab book. You gotta love those winky moments.
Sometimes they're just like, well, we won't understand the ramifications of this for 10,000 years in the future. He was like, for God's sake,
No,
come on,
I
dude. Like,
I respectfully...
be more subtle.
Nah, I respectfully disagree. Like, I love that shit. Like, it's like lay it on me, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I bathe in Dab's brilliance. I'm just like, yes, more of this.
Oh, God.
Just more of this brilliance.
I mean, I love it too, but sometimes it's a bit like... Sometimes he's almost turning to camera and be like, you remember that thing I mentioned in that other book I wrote for 10 years ago? Well,
Also,
that's this thing now.
Also, bro, that motherfucker's a sacred cow. Like, you can't go there, bro.
There he
like,
is.
he's just too cool.
Oh, God.
Golden milk.
I love him,
that
though.
boy.
Look
Oh,
at this.
my God,
Like,
yeah.
why wouldn't you? If you were G-Dubs, why wouldn't you be like, yeah,
No, why
do
wouldn't you?
3 ender deaths? It makes sense.
Do whatever you want.
5 if you
It's
want
fine.
to.
It's fine.
Yeah. God, we haven't even got to my ones yet.
Yeah, no, we've only just done mine.
Sorry.
God,
Sorry, was that yours? Fucking hell, right,
that
okay.
was just mine.
That was
No,
just
this
yours.
is.
Sorry, the amount the Quipster was talking, I forgot that it was his.
Oh,
We
you've done mine
circled
yet.
back round. Right. Okay. I'll go really quickly in between. I like the bit with Horus in it.
It turns out Horus was the Warhammer 40,000 all along.
What is this? Some kind of Horus Heresy?
The real Horus Heresy was the friends we made along the
Along the
way.
way. Absolutely.
God almighty.
God.
I've got a really quick one. I'm going to go really quickly before Chris gets into a sesh. So I really like, it's a really small bit, but I really like, I don't know if you guys remember, there was a guy called Solon Decius who like gets infected with like sort of like the Nurgly plague, basically.
You're sort of
And they're trying to,
nerdified.
yeah, and he starts like going downhill, and they're trying to like keep him alive and sort of get in there and all that sort of stuff. And he basically he's tortured by this disease to the point where he literally just gives up and gives himself over to Nurgle, and he becomes this sort of entity that's like called the Lord of Flies. And then he has a big old scrap. But it's just a really cool, like that is really grisly, that descent into this sort of like madness with the disease, and like, oh, it's sort of like getting into his mind and just pushes him over the limit to let this demon in. It's quite terrifying. It's very Nurgly, and it's just horrific. So that's a bit for me that I was reading and I was like, fuck, this is dark. So yeah,
I think that sometimes happens with the heresy, where like you kind of get introduced to a concept for almost like from the perspective of first times, right? Just when something really graphic or really fucked up happens, you're just like,
Yeah.
oh, that hits harder for some reason. I might know context and all stuff aside, like for whatever reason that really hits quite hard. And there's quite a few times in the heresy where that happens.
there are.
You know, whether it's something,
100%. I mean, I really do like how they've integrated that concept into the Horus Heresy game as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is
Don't
that
worry,
shut up now?
No, I was like, no way.
Hard stop.
That's just Russ's
But, yeah, I was
interrupt
just
alarm.
gonna
Sorry, Gary. Sorry.
Need a few more of those with me. But yeah, I really like how they've integrated that into the Horus Heresy game system, because like in the Heresy, they don't have individual names for individual demons. So like in 40k, you've got blood letters, and then you've got corn, whatever, and you've got what are the Tzeentch ones called? The
Horrors?
feathery little ones.
Others, the
Yeah, horrors and stuff.
and all
Like,
that sort of stuff. Yeah.
yeah, like each one of those has a name, because by 40k,
Yeah.
the Imperium kind of knows what all the different ones are and what they
Mhm.
do. Whereas in the Heresy, they don't know anything. So in the Heresy game system, they're just like the small ones, the medium-sized ones, the big ones, and the really big ones.
Yeah.
That's how they differentiate it. And you can use any models for any of those.
Super cool.
And it's just, it's just a really nice way they've integrated it there.
Mm.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. That's cool. That is cool. I didn't even think about it from the mechanical perspective either, but that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hit us.
Lad, go on.
What's your
Let's have
first one?
yours,
Go on.
please. Hit us.
Okay. So my first one is actually just a funny one. I think it's like one of my favorite funny moments in the Heresy. And it's the moment where in Vulcan Lives, he has to go through that maze that Kurz is torturing him through. And he gets to the center, And in the center, he finds his hammer. He's just like, yes, found my hammer. And it's got a teleport homer in the shaft. And he goes to crack the teleport homer. And he's just like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. Cracks it. And Conrad Kurz goes, ha, you think I didn't know about that? Like, of course I knew about that. You're not going to get out of here using that. And so Vulcan walks towards him. And he's just like, Conrad, in all of this, you have completely forgotten one thing. And he talks a bit quieter. And so Conrad kind of leans in a bit. And Vulcan whispers, it's still a hammer. And then bang! Slaps him across the room with this fucking hammer. And I'm just like, yes! Fuck you! Yes, Vulcan! And it's one of my favorite moments.
Dude, as a Dark Angels person as well, I fucking hate Conrad so much. And just that, just everything that happened to poor Vulcan as well, like, he deserved that. He fucking deserved that.
Oh.
He was just like, yes, smack him, Vulcan! Like, suck it around the
Yes!
Bring it on.
It's that Schadenfreude, just like, ugh!
Yeah, man.
So
that's a great
yeah,
moment.
100%. That's my first.
That's
like,
a really cool
favorite.
one, actually. Nice choice. I like that.
Thank you.
That's a good
So
one.
that's my like funny moment. I always love to quote that one, but
Yeah.
the one that gets me like emotionally is it happens during the siege, and it's I can't remember which book it's at the end of. I think it's the end of the one that Aaron Dembski-Bowden wrote. It's not The Last Wall, is it? It's something.
Is it First Wall? Is it the First Wall? The one?
No,
with,
it's like this. It's the one just before End in the Death.
That is Eternity. Is that Eternity?
Echoes of Eternity. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Right at the end of that. This got me. Like I'm not gonna lie, I shed tears when I read this. It's the final message, or the first message that Gilliman sends, and it reaches Terra. Like, this message from Gilliman reaches Terra Command, and he's just like, I am 12 hours out. Hold the line. I am almost there. We will do this. All you have to do is survive. And you read it, and you're just like, holy shit. Because at that exact moment, the Emperor's just teleported away, and you realize, fuck.
Yeah.
This is the moment that the universe changed. This is the moment that damned the entire 40k universe. And like, I've been reading these novels since I was 16? And so to get to this foundational, pivotal moment in, the lore and our hobby, it got to me. And I was just like, holy shit. Because you hear, and I was reading it, I wasn't listening to the audiobook, but you still hear the desperation of Gilliman and his plea and his hope that, all you have to do is hold the line.
Yeah.
And it just got me in that moment. I'm shedding a tear right now just describing it back. Jesus Christ.
Well, the thing is,
but
as
a
reader, you know what happens too, right? And like, even though you know what happens, like, you can't allow your imagination to go there and go like, oh my god, what if, man? Like, what if they held that for an extra 12 hours?
Yeah.
Like, and especially with Gilliman as well, like, yeah, that's a really
could have made all the
moment,
difference,
actually.
right?
There's a lot of those. There's a lot of those in the Siege, though. Those like reflective kind of moments. Like Dawn had one as well, where he like had that moment of like where he allowed himself like a moment to like take an aside and just kind of have that downtime and stuff. And there's loads of those. There's loads of those in the Siege.
I will say, as a juxtaposition, that there's actually quite a funny one. I talked about this on a podcast with them. Do you guys know the Sandman of Terra?
Yeah.
No, I don't actually. I don't.
You should watch his content. He's done some amazing stuff recently. But I did a podcast with him a while ago, and one of his favorite moments is there's a bit where Dawn and Valdor are in this little tower, and they're just waiting. They're waiting for Malkador to turn up for this meeting, and so they're trying to awkwardly have small talk, and just both fucking failing.
Amazing.
And like, what are they going to say to each other? Like, so how's the siege going? Well, shouldn't you fucking know?
No.
Like, you're the Lord Commander of everything that's happening here. Oh,
That's
yeah,
great.
I guess. And so, like, there's a bit where at the end of the meeting, Valdor like walks out, and I think Dawn says, "Okay, what are you going to go do now?" And he says, "I'm going to go hunt all the demons in the dungeon." And Dawn just kind of whispers to himself, "Lucky bastard," as he walks out, because he has to sit in the command center and like control everything. He's just like, "Oh, I wish I was fighting. I hate that guy."
So good.
That's very cool.
I just love that little bit.
It's weird though, like especially during the siege, like moments that really stick with you. Like one of my favorites that I reflected on it afterwards, and I'm like, why did I really enjoy that? But it was about Zenobi, who's like, and it was in the book, like the First Wall. It's about this lady called Zenobi, who's part of the Abada Free Corps. And she's just like, just a random like soldier, like and a lot of people are like, really? And she's just like this soldier that's kind of being gathered to the palace, right, to defend the palace and stuff. And you're kind of like, why are we with this character? Like she only appears in this book, and she's just kind of at the beginning, and you kind of get, or at least I did, kind of get attached to her journey where like she's making that almost insane pilgrimage to Terra, and like, you know, the train's getting destroyed, like fucking, and it all go, you know, it's really epic journey, and she like goes through the Himalayas and stuff, and it's like, fucking hell, like, wow, like, go girl, like, you get there, you fucking get all the way there. And then they stumble upon this like tank column, like on the way and stuff, and they kind of join up with this tank column and stuff. And then the big revelation, spoiler alert, is that she's actually a traitor, and like they destroy the tank column. So this whole time you were like invested on her like getting to Terra to like protect like the Imperial Palace, but actually at the end she unveils this banner of Horus and like fucking bombs the tank column, and you're like, what? Like, wow! And then you're like, oh, was there like some really cool like foreshadowing there? And for me, it just like hit hard, like how broad the heresy kind of goes, where like, you know, like these are just people on the ground, right, that for whatever reason had like a beef with the Imperium of Man, and like she's managed to go there and blow up an entire tank column in the process, and it's just like, whoa, so human, and like like it's not demigods, it's just some random person there just like doing something that they believe in, and it's just I found it really powerful.
100%. There's another bit in that book on that train journey that actually really got me. Yeah. And it sounds so weird and innocuous, but when you actually think about it, you're like, oh, because basically one of the things they talk about as they're going on this train journey to get to the palace is how organized everything is and how efficiently everything runs, to the point where when they get on this train to take them to the palace, each of their bunks has their name on it. And that really got me, because I was just like, holy shit, the level of organization it would require to raise a regiment from some far off hive city and then have each one of those individual soldiers have an individual place for them in the transport infrastructure of a place that is receiving damn near 1 trillion soldiers. Yeah, to have that named is a stunning achievement of organization, and speaks to how organized Dawn is as a strategist, but also how far the Imperium has fallen. Because if you think about 40k as a setting, that would never happen.
No.
And you just go, oh, this is where they fell from. So it's just that tiny bit, and it just really got me.
Little snippets like that. It is full of stuff like that. Like the Horus Heresy, just generally speaking, has so many cool little character moments that just drive the story forward. It's really interesting. I've only read, like for full clarity, I've only read a few of the books, like the earlier ones. I've been diving back into the Game of Thrones audiobooks recently, which are just taking me forever to get through. So once I finish those, I'm going to get your list, Quipster. I'm going to dive back in again and do them from the beginning. So that's my plan. But I'm a huge fan of of when they got Istvan on Istvan 3 with the virus bomb. Like, because I remember how just like dramatic that moment was. I know it's like a big turning point in the Horus Heresy early on. But it was just reading that, I was like, holy shit, like shit's just got real. This is, you know, a serious happening, you know. So that one for me, when I was reading that, I was like, shit. Yeah. Shit just got real.
That's a really good one. That's a really good choice.
It's a cool moment.
Such a pivotal moment.
And there's some really cool like after effects from that. Yeah, with Rylanor. Exactly. And some really cool knock-on stuff. So yeah, that is a cool moment. Yeah.
Awesome. What are your favourite moments, listener? Post that. We haven't had any interaction with listeners at all. It's just like, please, post yours. Post your favourite comments below concerning your favourite Horus Heresy moments. Exactly. Right then, lads. I think we better wrap shit up, actually.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's been a great night. Thank you for coming on.
What I will say, thank you so much for coming on, mate. Like, it was awesome to have you.
Anytime. Honestly, I love doing stuff like this. So anytime, maybe when I've moved into the new place.
Yeah, we'll give you a bit of time.
Yeah, 100%.
Give you a few months to get settled, and we'll get you back on down the line, and we can talk some more shit about Horus.
Amazing, I love it.
And in all seriousness, good luck for your move, dude. Like, I don't envy you right now. Like that's not a fun.
You've got a lot on your plate the next few days.
Thanks, dude.
And if we can help you procrastinate for a few hours before you have to do the packing and stuff, like I'm glad that that's the case.
Anything to help me not pack.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yes.
They're going to turn up in the morning and the moving van, and you're going to be like, I'm not ready. Film the podcast all night. Sorry.
It's like,
Sorry, Russ, go on.
Thank you for my glorious... That's all right. No, thank you for my glorious podcast host, Ed. Thank you, mate. That's cool.
Yeah, thank you.
And we'll catch you. Yeah, no, you're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Genuinely, thank you for my co-host, Russ, and obviously Quipster. Thank you very much for coming on. It's been a genuine pleasure. We'll definitely do it again down the line.
Thanks, honestly, so much for having me.
Yeah. No, thank you.
When I actually meet you in real life, I'm going to give you the biggest bear hug ever, mate. It's just...
I thought you were going to say, a sugary chip. Get me back.
maybe. I plan it.
Nachos with jam on them or something.
Oh, God.
Oh, actually, that sounds quite good. Right. Later, speaks. Thank you. Ciao.
See you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.